Let's see some of the basic operations of queue, starting from the first operation, and that is called as a enqueue. Inserting an element at the end of the queue, that is at the rear end. Inserting an element at the end of the queue, that is at the rear end. This operation is called as a enqueue operation. The second operation is a dequeue. Dequeue means this operation removes or return an element that is at the front end of the queue. Okay, so removing element or return an element at the front of the queue, that is called as a dequeue, and inserting an element at the end of the queue, that is at the rear end, that is called as a enqueue. Let's understand this using the representation of queue. So this is a queue, and for example here we have inserted the first element, that is 10, then 20, 30 and 40. So elements are inserted from the rear end and removed from the front. Okay, so front and rear are the pointers which points to the first and last element of the queue. So the last inserted element is 40 and the first inserted element is 10. So insertion can be performed from the 10, that is we can call it as a enqueue operation, and removal of elements can be performed from the front end, that is we can call it as a dequeue. So in enqueue the elements are added or inserted at the end of the queue, okay, that is from the rear end, and the elements are removed or returned from the front end, that is called as a dequeue operation. Now let's see the third operation of the queue, and that is a rear. So rear is a pointer which points to the last element of the queue. So this operation returns the element at the rear end without removing it. So return the element at the rear end of the queue. There are two ends of the queue, front and rear. So rear returns the element at the end of the queue, rear end of the queue, and the fourth operation, that is front, it returns the element at the front end of the queue, and it just return the element, it will not remove the elements. Okay, so return the element at the rear end of the queue without removing it, and front returns the element at the front end of the queue without removing it. Okay, front and rear. Front means it returns the element at the front end without removing it, and rear means return the element at the rear end of the queue without removing it. Now the next operation of queue is isFull. As the name suggests, this operation indicates or checks whether the queue is full or not. This operation is used to return or check whether the queue is full or not. And if the queue is full, then the overflow condition will occur and it returns the error message. Now the next similar operation is isEmpty. This operation indicates whether the queue is empty or not, or checks whether the queue is empty or not. And if the queue is empty, then it returns the underflow condition and shows the error message. Okay, so isFull operation checks whether the queue is full or not, and if the queue is full, then it returns the error message and returns the overflow condition. And isEmpty is used to check whether the queue is empty or not, and if the queue is empty, then it returns the underflow condition and it returns the error message. Now the last operation of queue is a size. What is size? This operation returns the size of the queue. It returns the size of queue. Okay, that is the total number of elements it has. Okay, that is the total number of elements it contains. If we want to get the total number of elements in a queue, then we can use the size operation. So these are the some basic operations of queue. Let's revise once again. The first one is a enqueue. Enqueue means inserting an element at the end of the queue, that is the rear end of the queue. Dequeue is operation which removes or delete or return an element that is at the front end of the queue, because insertion can be performed from rear end and removal can be performed from the front end. So insertion operation is called as a enqueue and removal operation called as a dequeue. Rear operation returns the element at the rear end of the queue and front returns the element at the front end of the queue. Then isFull and isEmpty is same as in a stack data structure. isFull operation is used to check whether the queue is full or not. If the queue is full, then it returns the overflow condition and returns the appropriate error message. And isEmpty operation is used to check whether the queue is empty or not, and if the queue is empty, then it returns the underflow condition. The underflow condition will occur and it returns the error message. And the last operation of queue is size. It returns the size of the queue. That means how many elements are there in the queue. If we want to get how many elements are there in queue, then we can use the size operation.